but some of what we call the red flags of high conflict divorce. Okay, number one is unaddressed addiction. When somebody is actively an addict in something, drugs, alcohol, whatever, they are unable to think straight and they're not doing what's in their own best interest. So they're not making good decisions for themselves or their family. So it's very hard to work with an addict who is not, this is, again, the opposite of somebody who's working on getting so clean and sober. But someone who's still in the midst of it, it's really hard. And that can make a divorce take a lot longer because you're just, you can't. You can't move forward.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Okay. Yeah.
Another is mental health issues. So, we often talk about narcissism, but any kind of personality disorder or something where somebody is focused on hurting you, where they feel like I have to win. Because in a lot of domestic abuse cases, it's all about power and control. And some of that ties to mental health. And so someone who's only focused on winning basically might have a scorched earth strategy where it's like, I'll just try to destroy you. I don't care about finishing this. I don't care about the kids. I just want to hurt you. So that is high conflict situation, unfortunately.
I guess the word narcissist is used too much nowadays on social media, but could that maybe qualify as a narcissist or maybe somebody who's competitive, like maybe a coach or somebody who just loves to win?
No,
okay,
not at all. No.
Okay.
No, narcissism, generally, it's like someone who's incapable of empathy.
Gotcha. Okay. Makes sense.
So they don't understand. So they don't put their kids' needs first because they can't picture what their kids feel like. So it's just like me, this is what I want. It's like, but everyone else is suffering. I don't care. I want this. Just very demanding, but no, not a coach completely different.
Gotcha.
Okay. Another thing is somebody who doesn't really take financial responsibility. And this is, so financial abuse is a big deal. Somebody who's hiding assets, somebody who's like, well, I did all of the work, so you don't deserve any of my money. I'm not going to recognize what you contributed to the household. Everything is mine. What's mine is mine, and what's yours is mine too. And I deserve everything, and I'm going to keep it. And it's not just men who are like that. Women can be like that too, as we know. So, it doesn't matter. But someone who just denies like that, you need to share, you need to split certain things, and try to work together.
Gotcha.
But basically, someone who's feels entitled to everything.
Okay.
Another one is when there's domestic abuse involved, and not because of what you'd think necessarily. Often it's because a victim thinks, oh, I'm going to keep trying to work on it. There's something called hoovering. I don't know if you've heard of that, but that's when
no,
you break up.
What is that?
Okay, so hoovering is like the British word for vacuum cleaner, vacuuming. So hoovering is like when somebody sucks you back into the relationship. So there's something called intermittent reinforcement with a lot of emotional abuse where like things will be great, then they're horrible, then you're like, I'm going to leave. And then suddenly they're super nice to you or give you a present and you're like, oh, I shouldn't leave now because they're being so nice to me. Yes. Yeah. Love bomb. That's part of it too. So with domestic abuse cases, it's a lot of stopping and starting for a victim where they'll be like, I want to do the divorce. I don't know if I want to do the divorce. Oh, but things are good now. And so that can be very difficult for an attorney to proceed with going to the end of it because they have to listen to their client and they can't just file paperwork when their client keeps changing their mind. So that adds the time that it takes and the expense to get something done. And the other thing is really anger that doesn't subside. So I said earlier in our conversation that it's in normal cases, after 4 to 6 months, people calm down. They're like, we got to finish this up. We got to do what's best for the kids. We got to stop spending all this money. In toxic, high conflict situations like mine and all of our clients, the anger it grows over time. So like our exes are still actively stalking us, checking our stuff, taking pictures of our cars at each other's house. Like they're still they care so much. They can't seem to just stop. Like just leave me alone, go on with your life. It's like they're still consumed by all of this stuff, which is abnormal. So those are indicators. Like if you've been separated for a while and your ex is still like hunting you down and won't leave you alone, that's a problem.
And have you seen this with more men or women, or is it equally both?
It's tricky because we have more female clients. We do have a number of male clients too. Men tend not to speak up as much. We've talked to a lot of men about it because there's this stigma that like, well, How could you be an abuse victim? Can't you handle your woman?
Yeah.
You know, and so women talk more. Men hide a lot more of their issues. One of the worst cases of domestic violence I've heard of is a male victim. You know, I mean,
really?
His ex tried to kill him multiple times, you know, left the country, all kinds of restraining orders, just awful, like terrifying stories. Yeah. And also men fear, part of the legal stuff is they fear they're not going to be believed. Like Chris often will share the story. He's 6'3". He's a former football player. His ex is like tiny, you know, big brown doe eyes. Like you walk into a courtroom, who are they going to think is an abuse victim?
Right. Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
But there's a lot with men. It tends to be a lot more emotional abuse. I do have an interview with a guy. He's 6'7", and he talks in detail about his ex-wife getting in his face and saying, hit me. And he like wouldn't do it. And she's like, I'm going to slit your throat in your sleep. And for a year after they separated, he still was putting furniture in front of the door. She didn't live in the house anymore, but he just the terror of living with that. And so we have this whole long interview with him. His name is Carl. But yeah, a lot of men, they're just like, no one's going to believe me.
Yeah. And that's a whole other podcast on its own.
Yes.
A friend of mine he was a co-host with my previous podcast. He told me he had a whole episode dedicated to like his, abuse that he went through. And I always knew his ex-wife was a jerk because I never liked her, because as soon as they got married, he was gone for 20 years. Yeah. And then after the divorce, he shows up and then he tells me that she was just manipulative. She always demeaned him. Babe, do I look handsome today? He says, no, take that off. You look fat in it. You know, he's working out, losing weight. How do I look? I don't see any changes. And then it got to the physical piece. Like she hit him over the head with a hammer one day. A mallet. I'm sorry, a mallet, like a rubber one, but yeah. And he told me he fell to the ground and he couldn't feel his legs, and eventually the feeling came back. I'm like, dude, why didn't you call the police? Why didn't you do something? He goes, honestly, because I didn't think they believed me. Because every time she'd hit me, she'd scratch herself.
Yeah,
and just say
that's very, very common. And you know,
in some terrifying.
States, it is terrifying. And we have clients like that. And in some states like Colorado, if they are called to an incident at someone's house, they have to arrest one person. So a good friend of mine from high school, his ex-wife was in the military. She would do all kinds of stuff, including, we have several clients, their ex-wives would harm themselves and then say to the police, look what he did to me. And the police don't know what to do. And a lot of police are not trained in domestic violence. It's usually a special victims unit. So it's very, very hard.
Yeah, I have friends who are police officers here in San Antonio. They always tell me, we're not counselors, dude. We're not here to like, you know, settle your argument. Just don't hurt each other. That's what we're here to do.
Right.
It's sad. And it's sad as a man, like I said, I'm not going to lie. There are men out there who are abusive, of course, but not all of them. And just like there's women out there who are abusive, but it's unfortunate. The social stigma, or the, I guess, double standard, is that no one's going to believe a man. And a lot of people know that. I mean, there's the Amber Heard case. There's all these other cases where people just vindictively lie. And that's it. All it is just an accusation, but the accusation alone can just ruin a man's reputation, and he's done. It's scary sometimes.